Browns not only didn't win, as they were favored by 2.5, they
They
lost.
lost.
And they lost Nick Chubb for the season, which ultimately, I believe, led to the result of the game and will probably lead to
You think
many
so?
losses.
You really think so?
Well, when they lost him, they were in the red zone and then they didn't score a touchdown on that drive. I believe, actually, they were inside the 10 and then they didn't score a touchdown on that drive.
Who wants to run the
Okay.
ball after seeing that happen to their teammate?
I feel that, but Jerome Ford did it with pride, man.
he did have himself a good game, but
he was gassed on that long run, dude. He should have scored. He was gassed.
Oh, he's so tired. And so now they're making the case. They'll either be bringing Kareem Hunt in, who is in contact with the team, to come back to the Browns, or they're talking about making a trade for Rams' current running back, Cam Akers.
Damn, someone already picked up Kareem Dynasty League.
Yep, they did. Smart move.
Fuck.
But if you were paying attention and you were able to cash out early, or you took any of those 5 that won on that leg of the parlay, congratulations to you. Make sure you stick around for my further parlays in the next coming shows, for pregame shows, because you will be winning some money on my back this year.
Only if you cash out early.
Yeah, you're 0-1.
But going back to that Browns game, one thing I did enjoy seeing is they're not calling shit for Deshaun Watson. They're letting people go after him. Love seeing that.
Well, there has to be a problem with his offensive line. Like, his offensive line must hate him as well, because they got tore up all night. This is a better offensive line on paper than Baker Mayfield was ever given as the Browns starting quarterback. This is better offensive line than they gave Jacoby Brissett last year. This offensive line could probably go almost anywhere in the league that they wanted and be an automatic starter. And they got 8 up. Now, again, that's nothing bad being said about Pittsburgh's defense. We know their defense is great. But that offensive line couldn't hold a wet paper bag in front of them. It was awful.
They weren't the greatest, but the Browns have a good defense too, man.
Browns have a great defense.
But to let up, 6 sacks? Not what you
every
want.
time I looked back at the screen, Deshaun Watson didn't even have the ball in his hands from the snap and already had a guy in his grill. As bad as Deshaun Watson played, and as much as I want to see the guy fail, I don't know if we can.
Browns offensive line. I thought the Steelers offensive line didn't look great either.
They didn't, but nobody's offensive line looked as bad as the Browns did this week. And as much as we want to see Deshaun Watson fail, you can't realistically put that game on his shoulders, because that was an awful showing by the Browns on Monday night.
I mean, the Steelers just have a Matt Canada problem right now. He's doing everything in their power to make sure that they don't score points.
Well, I think they've got a
and TJ Watt has to put it in his own hands. But even after Zadarius Smith went off, the Browns were still after Kenny Pickett all game.
He did have that long touchdown. Kenny Pickett showed some grit sitting in the pocket, taking a big hit, leading to that huge touchdown for George Pickens.
The Pickett to Pickens, baby.
Pickens versus Denzel Ward was fun to watch last night. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Okay. All right. That's all I need to say. Fuck you guys. This isn't my show.
Your name is on it. Before we get into too many more games, we do need to get to our results from the games of the week. The first one from the showdowns was Bengals versus Ravens.
Bengals Ravens. A highly contested game, but Joe Burrow and the Bengals still kind of feel flat. I don't know if it was as physical as I was anticipating the game to be, but the Bengals are 0-2, and I'm happy to see it. when the Bengals are playing well, I feel like they threaten us more than the Ravens do. I feel like we can beat the Ravens even when they're playing well. Um, I don't know how to properly explain it, but yeah, at their peak, I would rather face the Ravens than the Bengals. So, like I said, to see the Bengals 0-2 after this game is something to be joyous about as a Chiefs fan. I mean, they have a hole that they really need to dig themselves out of because they are not playing well. And the offensive line, again, isn't the best.
Well, and not to mention that Joe Burrow is still fighting whatever calf issue that happened
Oh, yeah.
during training camp. In fact, the rumors from the locker room are that the issue is getting worse than when he started the season in week 1, that he pushed himself too hard, and now there is real concern in that locker room that should he continue to push it, should they continue to have these issues with the offensive line, Joe Burrow could see a serious injury and see serious game time missed.
So they go to a backup now, put Joe Burrow on the bench, and dig themselves an even deeper hole they got to dig out.
Given the injury that
Bengals
they just saw
season
to
ruined.
Nick Chubb, given the injury they just saw to Nick Chubb, I think the Browns are probably going to be out of it. I don't think that they have to fight that hard to get out of a hole to get into the wild card. And we know that team, when it comes late in the season, when healthy, can beat anyone until they get to the Super Bowl. So, even if they dig themselves a hole now, they can still, as long as it's early in the season, get themselves into a playoff position by the end of the season. And who knows what happens when the playoffs start.
Moving on to the next game of the week here, I had Dolphins Patriots. Dolphins ended up pulling this out. It was 24-17. What a game. What a game. First off, I want to go ahead and start off by Tyreek's comments of what he said after the game about Patriots fans. And I quote,
Boston fans as a whole.
Obvious. Just terrible, terrible sports fans. Those fans are probably some of the worst fans in the NFL. And I'm going to stand on that. They are real nasty, and some of the things they were saying, I wouldn't say in church. First of all,
so you got the quote right, but you didn't necessarily say it exactly like he did. So,
sorry, I just read it. I didn't listen to what he was saying. I just read the words. But anyways, man, one big thing I can say about that is that scoreboard they have, that lighthouse back there. Good job, New England. Looks pretty cool. Because your team's going to be shit, so you got to be looking at something nice at least. Bill Belichick had the challenge flag throw of the year.
Oh, that was
already in week 2. Yep.
Super disrespectful.
Looked at the ref. Make sure he was looking. Threw it straight down. Oh, man. Loved it. Patriots are who we thought they were. Kind of a little sloppy, kind of going out there and everything. They can't figure it out, and it always comes down to the end, which is going to be exciting to watch at least. They're going to be in most games, but they're going to find out new ways to lose every week. I believe they threw it to Gesicki, who ended up lateraling to Strange, 69. He was going up, almost made it to the first down line. They called it first down, had to end up reversing it. Usually you don't see that reverse like that if they call that the first down, but it's Patriots. You got caught cheating multiple times. It's about time you got something back for it. And
I mean, I don't know. That was a really polarizing play, and I think to me, like, he's clearly down before the sticks.
Clearly, but that's the way it goes now. They're not getting the calls anymore. If Tom Brady was still there, that's a first down.
Maybe.
And Tyreek Hill, killer. What can I say? He did kind of get locked up a little bit by Christian Gonzalez for a play or two. Rookie. Love to see that. And one last thing for this game. Halftime, the camera was following Mike McDaniels around. He sees the camera, looks at it, starts running faster to outrun the camera. That's gonna be a new thing we have to do. Mike McDaniel stuff every week.
I love Mike McDaniels, man. That
He's a
guy
funny coach.
he's a funny coach. He's a good coach. He's got charisma. Like he makes you want to watch him. And more faces the NFL has, the better the product is going to be.
I don't know. There's something about him that just kind of says pedo to me, but
Jeez. Clip it.
Sorry.
Obviously, none of us, and probably most people, are not big proponents of Mac Jones. But so far this season, is he getting too much hate? Currently, he's on pace for 35, a little over 3,500 yards and 34 total touchdowns. Or excuse me, 34
so.
passing touchdowns. Is he getting too much hate and too much blame for where they're at?
I think he's not getting enough hate. Honestly, he starts off games terribly. He has to find a way to come back half the time. And he always ends up messing that up somehow in the last drive they could possibly do anything.
He's a little too cocky. Like I get he's from Alabama, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I get he went to Alabama, but he's too cocky for me for like where his talent level is, because like he ain't the greatest. Like the Patriots are making do. They're putting a lot of like sneaky good playmakers around him. Like Ramondre Stevenson is a great fit for them. I thought they'd be using Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki too. I know he made a stupid decision with that lateral, but Mike Gesicki was great for the Dolphins. I thought they'd be using Zeke a little bit more. Kendrick Bourne is a great receiver. We know the level of play that Juju brings. Like they've and Devontae Parker still kicking out there. Like they've got some sneaky good position players. They put a decent team around it, but like Mac Jones he's not going to take them anywhere. Like Mac Jones is a filler quarterback. They're waiting to find their next franchise guy. He's not somebody that they're going to keep around for 10 years. And if they do, he's going to be a backup at the end of that 10 years.
Well, our final game of the week and our consensus game of the week, so we got one of them right, was the Seattle Seahawks against the Detroit Lions. Seattle pulls this one out in overtime, 37-31. And let me tell you, this game was electric every step of the way. Every single step of the way. There was not anything that got missed. The Lions went up, the Lions went up early. They were up at halftime 14-7. Seahawks came roaring back. They scored 10 in the third and 14 in the fourth with a walk-off touchdown. Geno was out there getting told by the refs, "I'm talking to America right now. Leave me alone." I gotta.
Oh, so that's the only thing I saw from that game this week. I did not watch that with the Chiefs game on. Good. And I have seen that clip a bunch of times now.
Oh, it was so good. Penalty, something happened. He's calling the penalty on Geno. Geno walks by and starts arguing with him while he's in the middle of the call on a hot mic. And he goes, "Excuse me, I'm talking to America here." Maybe the greatest call from a referee ever.
He been waiting on that. He left that mic on for a reason.
The run game for Seattle got absolutely stifled. 25 carries for 82 yards. Kenneth Walker, a whopping 17 carries for 43 yards. That's 2.5 yards per carry. He still walked away with 2 tuds.
I was going to say, but he got 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, needed that in my fantasy leagues. But Geno Smith had himself a day. 32 of 41 for 328, 2 tuds. Only took 1 sack, 0 interceptions, 0 fumbles.
Sounds like I might be taking JSN off my taxi squad here in a second.
Well, might be, unless you take a look at it. And JSN did have 6 targets, so that is good if you are looking for volume. That seems to be promising if he can continue to keep the volume up. However, in the 5 of his 6 receptions, he went for 34 yards.
Hey, gotta start somewhere.
That's Kadarius Toney numbers.
Three guys had a hell of a day. Obviously, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, also 8 receptions, 59 yards, and a pair of touchdowns. And then tight end trade Noah Fant from the Denver Broncos had 4 receptions on 4 targets for 56 yards. So it looks like it's just a Denver problem.
What's new there?
Let's not forget about the defense as well for Seattle. They're just as good as they have been in recent years. They came away with an interception and 2 fumble recoveries. And that's not to say that the Lions didn't have themselves a day either. Their rushing attack was much better. David Montgomery did go down with an injury. He is expected to be out for multiple weeks after he had 16 carries for 67 yards and a touchdown. So that hopefully means
I have
Jahmyr
Gibbs.
Jahmyr Gibbs will finally be stepping in. However, after David Montgomery went down, Craig Reynolds, the 4th string running back, ended up getting a bulk of the carries that were left in the game. And let's not forget about Jared Goff.
Unleash Jahmyr Gibbs.
28 of 35 for 323, 3 touchdowns. He did have an interception and take 2 sacks, but overall, you cannot ask more from Jared Goff. Had a great day. And the receiving factors there, Amon-Ra St. Brown, never count that guy out. 6 receptions for 102 yards. A guy that most people don't pay attention to enough, Josh Reynolds, had 5 receptions for 66 yards and a pair of touchdowns. There's another guy on this Lions team that we should also be on the lookout for, or maybe we won't be on the lookout for. CJ Gardner-Johnson, most likely out for the remainder of the season with a pectoral tear.
Damn.
CJGJ.
Wasn't he the one bringing in the ski mask this year too?
Yeah.
Yep, he did bring in the ski mask. A free agent from the last year's Eagles Super Bowl team now gets to be a leader on the defense, plays 2 games, and his season is a wrap.
Another thing about that game that I did not enjoy at all was Dan Campbell. I love the guy, but he has some questionable play calling sometimes. He went for it multiple times on 4th down early in the game, and then it was about a minute left. He had 3 timeouts around the 50, and he decided to settle for a field goal and tie the game instead of try to go for the win.
Dan Campbell's kind of been known for that, though. I mean, we remember the trick plays and going forward on 4th and 1, but throwing the ball to Penei Sewell. Like, Dan Campbell's the guy who is trying to make those calls, but more from a grit standpoint than a numbers standpoint, like Brandon Staley.
No, I mean, he just, like, there's a minute left. It looked like he was purposely going for the tie instead of trying to go for the win. You don't have that much yardage to go. You have 3 timeouts. Like, why not go for it after doing that earlier in the game? Just be consistent.
Trusted in his defense.
There's a minute left in the game. You score or you lose. Like,
fair enough.
Also, that was definitely a hold in overtime. My touchdown pass.
Yeah. You think?
Blatant hold.
Got away with it, so it wasn't. Are there any other games that caught your guys' eye from this weekend? Obviously, we had Panthers Saints on Monday Night Football, 2 games on Monday. We'll get another 2 games on Monday in week 3 that I am super excited for. Guy that in that game, guy that I've been calling out, not going to be that great of a career for this guy. Bryce Young had himself a decent day, nothing too exciting. Nothing he should hang his hat on. Only threw for 153 yards and only one touchdown, took 4 sacks. It's going to be a rough season for Bryce Young down there in Carolina.
It's not looking good so far.
I mean, he's just in a real poor situation. I don't think CJ Stroud or Bryce Young really went into great situations. Like the supporting cast for each of them just is outside of their respective cities, mostly unknown. I think we know a little bit more about Houston than we do who the hell's playing on Carolina right now. I don't think it was a great game, but another that went into overtime, and super happy that it ended with the outcome that it did. Titans over the Chargers by 3 points in overtime. Hey, Chargers, really rough way to start out 0-2. Fantastic high scoring game from week 1 with the Dolphins that they squeak by. You know, in that game, truly whoever had the last possession was probably going to win the ball game. Jesus Christ. But to lose to the Titans the next week in overtime, it's a rough way to go, too, in my opinion.
That's what we like to see. And
exactly.
Maybe if they had Austin Eckler that game, they probably would have been a lot better and maybe not had those issues. But also, Chargers are going to Charger. At some point, you've got to do it. And the team that surrounds Justin Herbert is not able to do it. The guy's got elite talent. He's not an elite quarterback that he's being paid like. Would it be fair to say that at this point in time, I don't think he'll ever even be as good as Phillip Rivers?
Oh, he'll be better than Phillip. That's not hard to do.
Phillip made an AFC championship game.
He can still do it. Won't go past that, but I'm not saying I do either, but it's Phillip, man. Come on. Speaking of a team,
Phillip's numbers are crazy, but I hate people that say he's Hall of Fame level, dude. I get it. I get it. I get it with the regular season numbers, but he never did shit. LaDainian Tomlinson is in the Hall of Fame. Priest Holmes should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry. I had this conversation with a Chargers fan not too long ago.
Speaking of Chargers chargering, the Broncos broncoed. Surprisingly.
and they scored more than 16 points.
Yeah. Surprisingly, they still lost, though. So go figure.
35-33.
Russell Wilson with a amazing Hail Mary that somehow got caught at the very end of the game. Bobbled around 3-4 times.
He got sacked 7 times.
I love seeing it. Sean Payton's already come out and said Russ needs to start wearing a wristband to plays.
Is he forgetting plays? Like, what's happening?
Something like that. He's not doing it right.
Not good. Man, talk about a fall, Russell Wilson. Last year, we all kind of maybe chalked it up to maybe he's falling off a little bit, but like it just different situations. Your best friend passed away. Like there was a lot of things going on and off the field.
Nathaniel
you have a horrible head coach. You got a guy in who's won a Super Bowl, who's always had good regular seasons. Man, that Russell contract is looking worse and worse every single day.
Better and better for us.
Yeah, true. Let's touch a little minute here on this other game, Falcons. Where are we at on the Falcons right now? Just won 25-24 on Sunday. The game was also really good in itself. They actually threw the ball.
A little bit.
Desmond Ridder had 237 yards. That's not a little bit. They threw the ball.
So since Kyle Pitts got to Atlanta, I feel like they've had an exciting group of position players. Cordero Patterson playing running back and, being the freak that he is. That was good TV. They can never throw it all together. Defense isn't that great and very poor quarterback play. So I think this year their division is super up for grabs, but going forward, their position group, I mean, barring if they give up Kyle Pitts, they're even though they don't utilize him correctly, their tight end position is iffy, up in the air, however you want to call it. But their position group, their skill position group is phenomenal.
Bijan made what, 3 guys miss on the same run? The same move?
Dude's electric, man.
19 carries, 124 yards. Let's be honest here. Kyle Pitts isn't going anywhere. They're not trading him unless it's for an absurd amount of either draft picks or an amazing player that's coming. Kyle Pitts isn't going anywhere. Going 2 for 5, probably on Kyle Pitts. Not looking good for him. That'd be the only way if he just continues to tank it himself, then possibly. But being realistic, Bijan has 4 years left after this with a team option. Tyler Algier has 3 years left on his contract, 2 years left on his contract after this season. Drake London will still have 3 years left on his contract after this season. Kyle Pitts will have 3 years after this season still left on his contract. These guys are locked up on rookie deals. They're not going anywhere. If they can figure out either with Desmond Ridder or another quarterback, the Atlanta Falcons, with the way their defense is playing so far this year, may actually have a legit chance if they can ever figure that out.
I like them. They're like the little engine that could, and I want to see them win.
Do you?
Sure, just as long as it's not against us. Like, they're not going to go to the Super Bowl anytime soon again. But
how about Jordan Love with that
I'm off
failed
the trade.
QB sneak?
I'm off the trade. Oh, that was horrible. How do you false start as the quarterback?
That's just sad, man.
And only 151 yards. Yeah, it's not looking good for Jordan Love. He had one good game. It was the Bears, like you said, and it's not looking so good.
I think Green Bay is slowly but surely going to become a poverty franchise in the NFL.
I hope so.
Yeah, what's this? David Bakhtiari is not going to play games on turf. You guys hear anything about that?
Have not.
I thought I saw something recently. It was either today or yesterday about Bakhtiari needs to be sitting out sometimes because it's turf, and he refuses to play on turf.
Well, as he and the rest of the players should. There's one final game that I would like to talk about. I'm not sure about you guys, but can we please start giving Baker Mayfield some respect?
No.
We saw him on.
It was the Bears.
And he played
the
good
Vikings
in week
and
one.
the Bears. The Vikings and the Bears.
Good through 2 weeks.
You can't be serious.
He's looking fantastic.
The Vikings are a better testament than the Bears, but like,
he's playing the Eagles next week.
Better get your weight up.
Better get your weight up. Listen, he's undoubtedly got the best team around him that he's ever had in his career. He's got a solid offensive line, even with his starting center going out for the season with whatever baby stem cells that he's using in his knee. He's never had this offensive line, whether he was in Cleveland, Carolina, or Los Angeles. He hasn't had this wide receiver core. He hasn't had any of these running backs outside of obviously Nick Chubb. Like any position that he's been at has been significantly worse. He is put in a position to capitalize and be great. And I think at the end of this year, he is going to have earned himself a good long-term contract. And he will be in Tampa for the foreseeable
long-term
future.
contract by what you mean 2 years?
Probably 4.
They're not committing to Baker for 4 years.
I bet they lock up Baker for 4 years and they go on some playoff runs. Hell, with that defense, might even make a Super Bowl.
This guy cannot be
You're
serious,
fucking
man.
high,
NFC is
dude.
weak. NFC is weak.
We'll talk
Okay,
next
well they
week
got
after
they
play
got the Eagles coming up, and we'll see.
Yeah, this upcoming week for Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield is the test of all tests to see if he and Tampa Bay are real. Undoubtedly.
I got one final game I want to talk about right now.
God,
That is the Giants and Cardinals.
I don't want to talk about this.
I was
Next.
gonna say